I'm going to focus on a special kind of fitness, and that is moral fitness. I believe that moral fitness bears a close relation to psychological fitness, but it's not quite the same. The moral fitness of the president is of particular importance with respect to those powers that are the least constrained. Presidential power under Article 2 of the Constitution has historically been least constrained in the area of commander-in-chief powers. That is the role in which neither courts nor Congress is in general willing to step in to constrain the president. With courts, we have seen an expanding use of the political questions doctrine, so that courts will pull back more and more from intervening with presidential action, particularly action that involves commander-in-chief powers. And we see the same thing with Congress. The last time that the Congress actually declared war was, you guessed it, World War II. Though since World War II, we have fought about 17 actual wars. And that is because Congress is basically willing to turn over the war function to the president without question. And the only thing that Congress does is appropriate funds for the conflicts that presidents initiate in one way or another after the conflict has been initiated, rarely withholding funds. So even the appropriations power Congress is rarely willing to exercise in constraint of presidents. Therefore, when the president is acting in his or her commander-in-chief role, she is most apt to have near dictatorial powers. And this is one critical reason that the moral character of the president is of profound importance. Unless we are prepared to wholly rewrite the constraints that operate on presidents with regard to their commander-in-chief and foreign affairs powers, we must be prepared to closely monitor the moral fitness of anyone who ascends to that high and largely unbounded role. In addition, and this is a second and distinct reason, national security actually demands that we have the highest level of moral fitness in the role not only of commander-in-chief, but of our military leaders. Military discipline crucially depends on the character not only of the president, but those all the way through the chain of command. So every year I take my students to West Point and we learn a lot about the training that the cadets receive. And I'm always struck by the fact that they tell us that the physical soldier is easy to train, but that the hardest thing to train is character. And therefore, they're extremely careful when they take in cadets because they know that they cannot fundamentally change the character of those that they induct, those that they take in. They need to start with good character and develop from there. But they know that they can take someone whose physical prowess is weak and develop into a strong cadet and a strong military leader. So I filed an amicus brief along with 14 national security professionals in the US Supreme Court in a case of Trump v. United States, along with Richard Painter, who was our counsel of record, most of whom were high-level retired military. And despite the fact that we had Democrats and Republicans and undeclared of all sorts with us in our group, we were united in our concern that granting immunity to the commander-in-chief would be profoundly dangerous for the chain of command. Why? Imagine the commander-in-chief issues an illegal order, such as the now infamous example of ordering SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. What should a commander or the head of the National Guard, say, do in the face of such an order? Well, it puts a commander in a nearly impossible position, particularly in the case of a patently illegal order. A commander has a duty to refuse to carry out such an order. To carry out a patently illegal order could subject one to military discipline. One has a right and, as I say, a duty not to carry out a patently illegal order. But the President of the United States is now not subject to criminal penalties for issuing an illegal order and will no longer presumably be terribly concerned about whether or not the order is illegal. So a dictatorial president, against the background of the immunity decision, will have the ability to pressure a commander into committing illegal acts in a whole bunch of ways, despite that duty, such as threatening to court-martial anyone who refuses orders, or, on the other side, dangling pardons to promise to absolve the individual as long as they go along with the orders. Now, the answer to this would once have been that while we can't prosecute the president while they're in office per tradition, not law, of the Justice Department, nevertheless, you could prosecute the president after they leave office. But the Supreme Court has handily taken that away right at a critical moment in time. What are we left with then? Impeachment, I think, is now fairly a dead letter. Prosecution is gone for official acts, and I can tell you that any order coming down through the chain of command from the president will be considered an official act. We're left with moral character. Therefore, in this election, the most important thing is the moral character of the individual that we elect for president. I'll let you to figure out the rest.